You check your phone for the 10th time in an hour. The silence from her is louder than any noise you've ever heard. It's a special kind of torture, isn't it? That silence. It's not just an absence of sound. It's an active screaming void where her words used to be. And every man who's been there knows the exact gut-level question it's designed to make you ask. What did I do wrong? Rather, that question is the trap. That feeling of desperate, confused inadequacy. That's the entire point. What if I told you her disappearance wasn't a mistake or a sign of your failure, but a deliberate, calculated power move? And what if I told you that buried in the wreckage of that silence is a key to a version of yourself you didn't know existed? You're about to see what happens when female social strategy and male emotional instinct collide, and how you can walk away from the crash site stronger than you ever were before. I remember the first time it happened to me. The text got shorter, the replies took longer. A ha-ha where there used to be a paragraph. You notice it. Of course you notice it. You feel the temperature drop degree by degree. You're standing in a room that's slowly getting colder, and you're the only one who seems to feel it. You start running through the mental checklist. Did I say something wrong? Was I too available? Not available enough? You craft a text, you type it out, you delete it, you type it again, you try to be funny, you try to be cool, you try to be indifferent. You're performing a one-man play for an audience that has already left the theatre. You hit send, and then nothing. The digital void swallows your words whole. The silence becomes a physical weight on your chest. You stare at that little screen, waiting for those 3 dots to appear. They never do. Your own mind becomes your enemy. It replays every moment, every word, looking for the crack where you failed. That's the battle. It's not with her. It's with the story you start telling yourself. A story of your own insufficiency. And you lose that battle every single time you check the phone. The world outside your head gets blurry. You drive to work but don't remember the journey. You sit with friends and hear their laughter through a thick glass wall. You're a ghost in your own life, haunted by the ghost of her. Food loses its taste. The music you loved sounds like static. Every notification from any app sends a jolt of false hope through your nervous system. A cruel little hit of dopamine that crashes just as fast, leaving you emptier than before. You're a prisoner in the panicked cinema of your own mind, forced to watch the greatest hits of your perceived failures on a constant, punishing loop. You are being dismantled from the inside out, and the architect of your destruction is nowhere to be found. She is gone, and all you are left with is the echoing question she planted in your psyche like a poison seed. What is so wrong with me? This is where we need to get brutally honest. Her ghosting you was not a loss of interest. It was a final, silent assessment of your value. Every woman is subconsciously running a constant, silent audit on the men in her life. She's testing for one thing: emotional stability. Your reaction to her silence is the ultimate test. When you double text, when you plead, when you demand an explanation, you fail. You confirm her deepest unspoken suspicion that your emotional state is dependent on her presence. You become a liability, and she moves on. This is the hidden mechanism. It's a biological imperative for women to seek out the most emotionally resilient partner. Your pain, your confusion, to her that's just data. It tells her everything she needs to know. You won't see this coming, but the moment she disappears, the power isn't with her. It's handed to you. Most men fumble it. They try to grab it back through pursuit. They chase the ghost. This is where you have to make the choice that feels insane. You have to do nothing. Absolute radio silence, nothing. You have to let the void be a void. This is the first and most difficult part of the transformation. You stop feeding the mystery. You let her live with the consequences of her own silence. What she did next changed everything, but only because what I did next changed me. I stopped looking for answers in her and started building them in myself. I hit the gym not as punishment, but as purpose. I opened a book. I focused on my work with a ferocity I'd forgotten I had. I reinvested every single ounce of that anxious energy back into the foundation of who I was. I wasn't doing it for her. I was doing it for the man I was becoming. And a strange thing happens when you start building yourself back up from the ground. The silence stops being a weapon she used against you and starts becoming the forge where you remake yourself. You learn a terrifying and liberating truth. A man who is truly building his own world, a man who is consumed by his own mission, does not have the time or the mental bandwidth to decode a woman's silence. His value is no longer on the table for negotiation. It becomes a fact, and that is a power move she can never ghost. But the revelations go deeper, layer by layer, like peeling back the skin of an onion, only to find something harder and more valuable underneath. The second revelation is this. Her ghosting was never about you personally. It was about a pattern. Women operate on a social and emotional calculus that most men are never taught. They are assessing a man's frame, the unshakable structure of his identity, his boundaries, his self-worth. Your initial pain was a symptom of a weak frame, one that was built around her potential approval. When she vanished, that frame splintered because it was dependent on her presence to hold it up. The third revelation is the concept of the backburner man. You were likely never her first choice. You were an option, a potential source of validation, attention, or comfort kept in reserve. When she ghosts, it is because her primary option has solidified, or she has found a new one she perceives as higher value. Your confusion is the byproduct of being demoted from the main menu to a forgotten item in the pantry. You were not fired, you were laid off without notice. Understanding this is not about cynicism, it is about clarity. It removes the personal sting and replaces it with a strategic understanding. The fourth revelation is the most profound. The map to your transformation is hidden in the exact coordinates of your pain. The specific insecurities her silence triggered, the feeling of being boring, unattractive, not enough, are not random. They are the exact areas of your life you have neglected. She didn't create these weaknesses. Her absence merely held up a mirror to the cracks that were already there. Your lack of purpose, your stagnant career, your unattended physical health, your dwindling social circle, these are the voids you were trying to get her to fill. The ghosting is a merciless but accurate diagnostic tool. The fifth revelation is about the nature of true value. Value is not begged for. It is not negotiated. It is built and demonstrated. In the silence you imposed, you have a choice: to beg for a seat at a table that has been taken away, or to build your own table, your own feast, in your own house. When you choose the latter, you initiate a fundamental shift in power. You are no longer a participant in her game. You have changed the game entirely. You're no longer a player on her field. You have become the architect of your own stadium. This is the final, unassailable truth. The man you become in the aftermath of that silence is a man who can never be ghosted again, because his sense of self is rooted in something no person can ever take away. That silence where her words used to be, it's not an ending anymore, it's a beginning. It's the blank space on the page where you get to write the next chapter of your own story. It's the raw material, the fuel. They hand you a match, expecting you to burn yourself down with anxiety and self-doubt. But you learn to use that fire differently. You use it to temper your resolve, to forge a new discipline, to illuminate the path you were always meant to be on. The ghost doesn't haunt a house that's under construction, filled with the noise of progress and purpose. You become that house. You become the man whose value is self-contained. You stop asking, "What did I do wrong?" and you start stating with every action, "This is who I am." That is the ultimate power move. It's not a text you send, it's a life you live. That silence where her words used to be becomes the birthplace of your unshakable self. It becomes the quiet confidence in a room full of noise. It becomes the focused intensity in your eyes when you work. It becomes the solid ground you stand on when everything else feels unstable. You check your phone not for validation, but for utility. You enter conversations not to extract value, but to offer it. You look at women not as sources of salvation, but as potential companions on a journey you are already leading. The ghosting ceases to be a traumatic event and becomes a graduation. It was the universe's harsh but necessary curriculum to force you to look inward, to build inward, to become the man you were always capable of being. The power move was never hers to keep. It was always yours to claim. You claim it not by winning her back, but by making the man she left behind a distant memory. If you've ever felt the sting of that silence and want to learn how to turn it into your greatest strength, this channel is your blueprint. We're building an army of unshakable men here. If this resonated with you, if you're ready to stop being the victim of her silence and start being the hero of your own story, then like this video, comment below with the one word that describes that ghosting feeling for you.